I thought I had a burp. I think I'm good. Alrighty. So, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to our new show, Movies We Love, here on Grab the Remote. I am Matt. Joining me, of course, is Cody. Cody, how you doing, man?
Dude, I'm so good. So good. Very excited to talk about one of my favorite series of all time, Lord of the Rings, and just ready to get into it, man, and just kind of discuss, because there is a ton to discuss here.
Absolutely. Yeah, we figured, the new show is on, and since Lord of the Rings, is back and, we're getting to see some more stuff from that world, figured we start talking about some of the movies too. So, we're going to be talking about Fellowship of the Ring today. Of course, the first one that kicked off this, beloved trilogy, some would say is potentially the best trilogy of all time. So I'm going to go to you first, Cody. When you sit down and you think about just Fellowship of the Ring, what really comes to mind?
Oh, man. Well, a lot of things. First off, I just love that, you kind of get into this whole world, right, of Middle Earth, and you get to know some of these characters. You get to know some of the, you get to start seeing some of the things, the camaraderie that you see, in the later films, start building some of that character and the world building as well. I just love that. Obviously love, Gandalf. I just love that character. Love his friendship with Frodo. That's just such a cool, really cool thing to see as it, just continues to evolve within the series and stuff like that. And then you begin to see, kind of the start of the friendship between, Frodo and Sam as well. That brotherhood that they have, that you really start to see, really start to come to, fruition in the next couple films. It's really cool to see some of those things start to set up, knowing in the future, what that's going to turn into. And so,
Mm-hmm.
those things obviously stand out. I mean, we got to talk about the Shire. Like, you just love the
Yeah.
Shire. Love what you see there. It's just, so much joy I think it brings just to see that. And I think for me, though, some other things that stand out as we get along throughout the course of the movie. Obviously you get introduced to, Legolas, you get introduced to Gimli, some of these characters that you're going to be following a lot more. And then Aragorn as well. So like all these different guys that, are really serving big purposes in the course of these three movies, I think is great. Obviously, you got to talk about the beginning as well,
Mm-hmm.
setting up kind of the whole plot with Sauron and, the whole rings and all that stuff and how, it all came to fruition, basically. There's so much I could talk about. I don't want to just talk it up to death because I'm sure we'll get into more individual stuff. But, of course, you got to talk about the end as well, with Gandalf. Facing its name is totally escaping me right now. I just watched this too. At the end when Gandalf is, with his famous line, you shall not pass. I just love that, man. I absolutely love that. And the whole idea of like just dealing with that, dealing with grief and dealing with, when you lose somebody like that. I don't know. That just really always stood out to me of like, how do you come back from that, So those are some of the things that kind of stood out to me. I'm sure there's other things that I'm forgetting, but those are kind of the main things. When I think of Fellowship, I think of those main things, especially.
Yeah, and I think the name of the character you were thinking of is
Balrog,
Balrog.
right? Balrog,
Yeah,
yes.
Balrog.
I wanted to say
Um,
Ragnarok. That's what I'm
yeah,
like. That's not right. That's clearly not right. But
no, different
yeah,
franchise. But yeah, no, this is obviously a fantastic movie, nominated for Best Picture. Ian McKellen, I believe, even got nominated for an acting, um, supporting actor for Gandalf as well. But this movie, like you said, does a great job just introducing you to this world. And, with the beginning, just it tells you enough, right? It tells you everything that happened in the past that you need to know that's going to matter to this story. Like, obviously there was an opportunity back then to destroy the ring. And, obviously power got the best of man in that scene, and hence why the ring is still there. But, I think one of my favorite scenes of that movie is really it's that festival in the beginning at the Shire. Oh, excuse you. Um, but it's that whole festival that you see, in the beginning with the fireworks, has all the
mm,
cool little designs and effects that the fireworks do. That was obviously really cool, and it looked like the ring had some sort of control over Bilbo as
mm,
well. because Gandalf wanted the ring, because he felt like Bilbo was, it was messing with him too much, and you know, you had that, and then, um, with Frodo too, you had the whole ring thing there, as well with Bilbo too. So, um, obviously, just the whole setup, the beginning, it's not like slow and pointless. It has purpose. It
Mm,
really, there's a lot in there, and those 2 hours and 48 minutes, they fly by. It doesn't
yeah.
feel like at least if you're watching the theatrical version, it doesn't feel like it's nearly 3 hours, which is impressive for that movie. But just does a great job introducing all these characters, this whole world, setting up the journey that they're going to go on. And I get like Two Towers might have the best action sequences of the movies. And of course, Return of the King is considered the best with just how they wrap everything up. But I honestly think just how the story is told from beginning to end, this might be the best of the three. It really is a fantastic movie.
hmm It is, and then you got to talk about Christopher Lee as well, who I love. You know, a
Yes.
big Star Wars guy. Just love
Mhm.
what he was able to do. You know, I just love his presence on screen, like just the what he commands, the respect that he commands
Yeah.
when he's on screen. Obviously, rip to him. But yeah, and also just wanted to talk about, man, you get introduced talking about this world, just the beautiful landscapes where they shot in New Zealand. It's just like, oh my goodness. Like, eventually I want to go there someday. That's like a
Me
dream
too.
of mine. It's on my bucket list. I want to go
Yeah.
there and just see the places that they shot, and be able to be
Yeah.
like, wow, this is where this scene happened. This is where this happened,
Yeah.
just building this beautiful world and getting these beautiful shots. Like, it's just gorgeous, man. Gorgeous.
Yeah, I mean, like, and I think that's something I love too about this movie is they didn't film this in front of green screens.
Yeah.
Like they easily could have done it for the entire movie, like George Lucas did with some of the prequels, and unfortunately, like Peter Jackson did with the Hobbit movies.
Mm.
Like it's all, at least for the most part, sets. Like it's real. They're actually there, and that's something that really makes me happy when a studio says, "Hey, we're not going to just shoot this on a green screen or on a blue screen. We're going to actually travel to another country. Yes, it's more expensive, but it's going to look better, and really it holds up a lot more if you actually shoot on set versus in front of a green screen. Because yeah, in front of a green screen, if you have the money, it could look great, but it's not going to be actual sets, and it just feels more real. So, like you said, I would also like to go to New Zealand someday and go to like the Shire over there and go there. And that's something they'll probably never get rid of because of how big these movies are. They're
Yeah.
always going to keep the Shire the way it is.
Yeah.
So that's obviously great. Um, but yeah, let's talk about that fight scene kind of towards the end with Balrog and you had Gandalf obviously fighting him, and at that time, if you haven't read the books, you think he passes. Um, that's another thing I think it's great. Just the action, it's super intense.
Mhm.
It really does feel like somebody might not make it out, and obviously Gandalf didn't make it, but
Yeah.
just with everything there, not just with Balrog, but all the creatures that are there that they're fighting, they do a really good job at just making it feel real intense and having you, if you haven't, read the books, just guessing, okay, what's gonna happen?
Mm.
Is somebody gonna die?
Right. I think in this movie, in that specific like time when they go into the mines of Moria,
Yeah.
that man, talk about I'm not usually claustrophobic, but
Mhm.
like in that especially, just you hear all these sounds. I think there were the goblins that were in there. You
Yeah.
hear all these sounds, and you're just like, oh my gosh, like there's no escape. Like, what the heck do we do? So that just made me squirm in my seat. Every time I see it, it makes me squirm in my
Yeah.
seat a little bit, just like, oh gosh, like just like knowing that there's really no way out, and like there's so many of them. Like,
Mhm.
it's a terrifying thought.
Yeah, and it just that's the power of good, sound effects and sound quality. Kind of comparing it to another movie. And I'm not the only one that pointed this out. Other reviewers have done the same. You look at the Pinocchio movie, for example, towards the end with the giant, whale monster. Can't remember his name. Um,
Monstro, yes.
yeah, Monstro. It just like the sound effects. as far as like for him, it's just not great. It doesn't make you get scared in the animated movie. It's like powerful and stuff. And that's what they do a great job in Fellowship of the Ring. And honestly, with all three of the movies, is just
Mm.
the sound effects and all that stuff. It really does a good job because, you know, if you don't do that great of a job with that, then it can definitely take away from the experience and what the director wants you to feel. So that is something I thought was really well done too. Just the
Yeah.
sound effects they used and just
Mm.
all the technical stuff that went into this. It's really just fantastic.
Yeah. It absolutely is. It's one of the best movies ever made for a
Yeah,
good reason. And the fact that Matt, with the new Rings of Power coming out, I think they spent. I think it was it like 3 million or something like that? Maybe it was more. I don't remember how much they
it was
spent.
a
They spent a lot of money on it.
yeah $1 billion is what
Oh,
they
I'm sorry. Okay,
spent on the show.
so they spent $1 billion on the total show, and I think between the three movies, they didn't even scratch the surface. And I honestly think they look better. And
Oh
and
yeah,
that's just a credit to Peter Jackson and all them. Just for phenomenal, phenomenal filmmaking. I do think a little bit. If there is like any nitpicks I would have, and they are minor, I would definitely say, like compared to the other two movies, they're still there. From a there's some digital things that maybe don't quite hold up as well as maybe they will in the future movies and stuff. But like those are very minor nitpicks. Overall, it still looks beautiful. The designs are great. The sound is great. Like everything is just phenomenal. But end of the day, this was the earlier film coming out, so the technology wasn't as further along, and they hadn't like refined everything. Like for example, I know you only see him for like a tad bit, but like Gollum, like he still looks good, but he looks so much better in the following movies. And so just things like that it's like those aren't bad, but you can tell that this is the first of three. So yeah.
right. Yeah, and I mean, with obviously with Gollum, Andy Serkis playing Gollum,
Mm,
obviously you don't get as much of the good stuff of Gollum in this one as you do with the next few movies. But yeah, it was revolutionary for the time. Just be able to use CG on somebody and make them, look completely different. They could be like a giant monster, or they could be just like a little tiny man, and they can actually do the movements, and that really was a revolutionary to the film industry. I guess if there's one, and it's not really negative, but if I had a nitpick with it, it's when Frodo, he's laying in bed, and then everybody comes to greet him, and you had like Gandalf and Sam and Gimli and Aragon and Legolas, all of them coming to him, and that was like, okay, we didn't. That was pretty cheesy. I mean,
yeah.
like it's just like okay, but like that doesn't. It's not like it's a bad thing in the movie. It's just like nitpick wise, I guess that would be the one thing that I could think of is just that because it felt real cheesy and it
Sure.
just didn't really feel like, at least to me, that it fit. But
Yeah, for
no, I
sure.
mean, but the
Makes sense.
acting in the movie though, I mean, not just Ian McKellen or like you say with Christopher Lee, but obviously, Elijah Wood and Hugo Weaving and just everybody, Orlando Bloom. Just I thought everybody did a fantastic job in this movie. The acting is really top notch, especially for a fantasy movie, because you didn't really get a lot of fantasy movies like this that, acting was just top notch.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, Matt, your thoughts on Boromir and kind of his progression as a character, throughout the course of the movie, because obviously he has some moments where you're like, oh, I don't really like this guy.
Yeah.
But then he does have that kind of redemptive arc at the end. What were your thoughts kind of on his character as it went along? And then obviously, as we learn a little bit more about who he is in the following couple movies,
Yeah.
what are you thinking about him, I guess, as a character? Because obviously he's only in this movie. So,
Yeah. I'm kind of same as you, where I was like, yeah, I don't know about him. And then, of course, at the end with his redemption arc, that, definitely helped him a lot for me. Um, but I mean, as a character, I liked him. I thought he was a good character in the movie. Of course, he dies at the end.
yeah.
Just like every single character that he plays in every single movie feels like he dies. You know, Sean Bean, like whenever you get Sean Bean, that was the thing,
Yeah.
up until recently. Sean Bean's in this, well, he's gonna die.
He's
They're
going to
gonna
die.
kill him off. Game of Thrones. Oh, Sean Bean's in it. Well, he's dead.
He's dead.
Um, so Yeah, but no, I thought it was a good character. At first, I wasn't too sure, but I thought the arc and the story of that character where it ended, I definitely liked.
Well, good, good. I just was curious how what your thoughts were on him because, yeah, I mean, I think at the heart he is a good person. You know, I do
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that just a little bit misguided. You know, at times a little bit. You know, gets a little selfish, gets a little power hungry. You know, the ring does that though to people. It shows that. You know, even I thought it was so interesting. This is something I didn't notice. You know, the first couple. I guess maybe I wasn't paying as much attention as the last time.
yeah.
But man, you talked about at the beginning. Yeah, so one thing that I found was interesting, Matt, that I didn't notice at first was when Bilbo first has the ring right at the beginning,
Mhm.
right? He's like, and they Gandalf I think makes the comment is like, you haven't aged a day, and then all of a sudden you see him with the elves and he's like an old man. He's like, oh
Mhm.
my goodness, that's just like those are like little things I didn't notice at first, but I was like,
Yeah,
wow, that's like crazy, like kind of the hold the ring had over him. I just think
right.
that was so like such a cool thing that I never noticed before. Just like how much, and I watched more of the extended version, so maybe it wasn't necessarily in the first one, or
Right.
in the the theatrical versions when I watched it before. But that was definitely interesting to me.
But yeah, that's also something I didn't notice at first, and like you said, it's probably something the extended cut. I haven't watched the theatrical cut in a long time. It's like ever since the extended versions came out, that's really all I'll watch.
Yeah.
I won't really watch the theatrical because I think the extended, at least in my opinion, is better. There's more stuff in there, and again, the extended versions they don't feel like they're nearly 4 hours. Like that
No.
one feels closer to three, but still, I mean, they're great movies. It just stinks I have to, at least with the Blu-ray and DVD, you got to take the disc out, put the other one in, and then start
Mm,
it again. That was
yeah.
really the only thing. But with digital now, it definitely does change a lot. But I will say another thing I like too about this movie, and it's not as prevalent as it is in like other movies. The whole Gandalf and Saruman, their whole
Mm,
thing. That was something that always really stuck out to me. Their like rivalry or whatever. That was something I liked a lot too from all of the movies in general.
mm. Yeah, absolutely.
But of course, it's Christopher Lee and Ian McKellen, just acting together and just it's a powerhouse with those two together.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I love just seeing both those guys on screen. It's just
Absolutely.
like every time you're just like, oh, like, whenever either of them's on screen, it's like
Yeah.
perfect, like, amazing. Like,
Oh
they're
yeah.
top notch, like for a reason. So yeah,
Yeah.
I love it.
I
Love to
mean,
see
they were
them. That whole rivalry was awesome.
yeah. And I mean, those 2 are some of the at least at that time, when these movies were coming out, they were some of the best working at the time, and,
Mm,
but you had some of the best actors, that were working at that time in this movie too, with Hugo Weaving in there as well, and, you know, just Kate Blanchett, like, she's also fantastic as Galadriel in this movie too. Um, but I guess, like, another thing that's really popped in my head, and really this is about the last thing I can think of really that hasn't been mentioned yet. The score. The score for
mm,
this movie and the music is just
oh,
fantastic.
yes.
Just absolutely wonderful. The whole theme for this movie is great. Um, that's another thing I need to point out because the score is just fantastic.
So good. Probably my favorite score of all time. I mean, I don't even think it's close. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like the sense of like it's like just fits perfectly with this world. It's like this
Yes.
sense of wonder that you have, and just the music. Like it's just like when you think of like I think every time I think of like a beautiful like landscape, I think of that like the score from this movie, honestly, and the following movies. So yeah,
Yes.
phenomenal, some of the best of all time, and I absolutely like love the score here. They did a great job with it.
Yes. Yeah. Howard Shore
Mm,
just fantastic, and I'm glad the Rings of Power theme is done by Howard Shore too.
mm,
That's like the only thing he did with the music in that show, but yeah, he's one of the better composers out there, and he did a fantastic job with all the Lord of the Rings movies. It's just it really was something that stuck out to me. But yeah, I mean, as far as things to talk about. That's really all I have. That's really popping up in my head. Is there anything else that is sticking out to you?
No, I think we covered pretty much all of it. There's a lot more we could talk about, but I
Yeah.
would say if you're listening to this or watching this and you haven't seen these movies, watch them like now,
Yes.
like pause this video and go and watch those
Mm,
movies because
yes.
it is like some of the best movies of all time. If you're into this kind
Mhm.
of stuff, you're into action, fantasy, anything like you can't do better than Lord of the Rings. So this
Yes.
is a great start to what is a great trilogy. Like you said, I think the story is probably one of the best ones of the trilogy. I just think it's great, just the setup and everything like that. And, makes the way for, arguably, and I would strongly argue it, the best trilogy of all time. So,
Yes.
yeah, I would encourage you. Watch it if you haven't. If you haven't, or if you already have, watch it again, man. It's worth it. It's,
Yeah.
there's a reason why you talked about they're never going to tear down those things in New Zealand because whether you read Tolkien's book or whether you didn't, like
Mhm.
these are some of the best things put to film. I truly believe
Absolutely.
that.
Yes. It to me, it's definitely it's definitely the second best trilogy of all time. I mean, it's going to be really tough for anything to beat the original Star Wars trilogy. It's
Sure.
just going to be really tough. But yeah, this is as close as it gets, and just really all three of these movies are just fantastic. And some will make the case that Return of the King is just a flat out masterpiece.
Mm.
They're all really good, and I just think the storytelling in this is really well done. Peter Jackson, I think, did a great job when it came to adapting these books and making this trilogy. The Hobbit, not so much. One book that's not that long, becoming three movies, not really a good idea. But yeah, I think that's gonna do it, guys. So before we go, Cody, why don't you let the people know where they can find you?
Sure. You guys can find me on Twitter at CPFelger55. And also, you can find me on Instagram at CPFelger55 as well.
Of course, you can find me on Twitter at horseshoe_pod. That is my Inside the Horseshoe Twitter. So you can go there if you want to, just that's really what I mainly use. So if you just want to see my tweets, go there, or you can go to it's Matt B. I believe it's 95995, something like that. I don't know. But you can find me on Twitter there as well. I'll give you the Twitter real quick. It's Matt B95. So there's that. And then, of course, we have a Twitter for our YouTube channel here, which is grab_the_remote. And we will definitely be sending out the link for this show when it uploads. So anytime there's any shows that we do, whether it's this one or just the movie news show, if you follow us on Twitter and you have the bell icon on, both on YouTube and on Twitter, you should be notified as soon as we upload the next episode of what we do here. So for Cody and myself, thank you guys for watching. We'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.